This is Jan from our mutual friend Brewing Company in Denver, Colorado, here with your craft beer and brewing tip of the week. One of my favorite historical beers, which is Chodkowski. It is a dark, strong smoked ale brewed in the northern region of Norway near Trondheim, the city of Trondheim. And in 2017, Josh Cody from Colorado Malting and Colorado Farm Brewing Company and I went over there to learn how to make this style of beer. It is a truly unique single malt beer that has a smoke character unlike any other smoked beer I had tried. And it's just been a really fun thing to brew at our brewery. And it's been a fun challenge to respectfully brew an example that represents the style and also have it be a delicious style that other people enjoy and that we love to brew every year. Chodkowski, there aren't really commercial varieties available, but traditionally it was a strong, dark smoked ale. ABVs that we saw were 8% and up. This beer was brewed to be enjoyed on Christmas Eve and have like a really raucous time in the middle of the dark Norwegian winter. The malt for this beer is truly unique in that it is these brewing co-ops in northern Norway. They're the ones traditionally making Chodkowski, and they brew and malt in what's called a farmhouse, where they malt the malt and brew the beer usually in the same place. The malt is started out just kind of spread out on the ground to germ. The malt is first steeped and then spread out across, what we saw was a tarp and then germed outside. And then it's taken inside to the farmhouse where they have a smokehouse and kiln kind of all rolled into one. So the malt is kilned and then smoked at the same time using alder wood that is burned underneath this wooden box that has perforations in it. And so this smoke and heat is coming up and rising through this malt, and it is imparting color and smoke characteristic all at the same time. And when the malt is finished, it is a speckled malt that has everything you need in it to make this incredible beer. So really there's nothing left to do besides brew with it. It comes out as a single malt that is just has all the color, all the smoke character, and all the sugar that you need to make it. When I say speckled, when you look at the malt, some of it's even charred, burnt to a crisp, and some of it hasn't seen any color at all. It all just depends on the layers of how the malt. So maybe the stuff on the bottom gets a little more char in one spot, and then they turn it and try to move that, and we're like, oh shoot, we got it real hot. Sometimes these places get so hot that they burn down actually, which is super sad, but it does happen in this kilning process. But the goal of it is to get a kind of an even distribution of colored roasted malt versus, kind of regular pale looking malt. And that combination of turning it while it's smoking and kilning, you'll get like basically a 50-50, even blend of roasted, smoked, and pale malt all within this one batch of malt. They'll take this malt and clean it as best they can. It's pretty rudimentary process, either with a screen or just kind of rubbing it around with their hands. Since it's already dried and kilned, they'll just start brewing with this malt right away, super fresh. It keeps all that smoke character in. They'll brew with this really fresh, super smoky malt. It's gotta be the smokiest malt I've ever smelled by a long shot. And since it's a single malt, the brewing process is pretty straightforward. It's usually a single infusion and then brewed to a higher gravity. So if for some reason they aren't able to hit their high gravity that they like, they're totally fine with adding brown sugar too, to get that up there. It's important that this beer is strong and so that they can have a really nice party on Christmas Eve in the middle of the winter. It would be no fun if they were drinking lightweight smoked beer in the middle of winter. Since this malting process is really, really historical, this is really how all malt was kilned back in the day. It was all kilned over fire or near fire. That fire and that smoke was getting in it. Smoke characteristic can vary from year to year in these beers. We got to try some vintages, and the characteristic was definitely different between these beers, even if not just the smoke level was different because they're vintages, but the character of the smoke was for sure different because the alderwood was maybe different that year. Maybe it was more green, maybe it was more dried out, the alderwood. Maybe they were hammering the fire that year and sticking a ton of branches in, or maybe they were using a mix of wood. Tons of variability in these beers, and that's okay. Year to year, these beers are probably going to be different, and historically they were. they kept the brewing process really simple. They were trying to maximize sugar. So they were trying to get as high sugar content into the kettle as possible. So highest starting gravity as they could get from what they had. And if they weren't able to get there, they were gonna make that up with brown sugar. To learn more about brewing historical and historical smoke beers, click the link below.